now, so be decent. Brent, you can take it over, man, if you want to.
I don't. I guess we're going to start off with Dave. Mr. Tucker, you want to just kick off what you wanted to talk about, and then I guess if we have anybody has anything they want to run through towards the end, we'll just jump into that.
Yo, let me just find my notes for a minute, buddy.
Okay.
I can give a small update till then, right? So what happened is during the hydrogen release, that's the first time where we released the bundles from every project, and hence, if you look at the hydrogen released version, the distribution zip file, and if you unzip it and run the controller with OVSDB and whatnot, inside the plugins folder, you won't see any .snapshot bundles because we released it, meaning there's no more snapshot bundles. For those who are new to the snapshots, the idea is that in OSGI, every component is a bundle. Functionality is written as a bundle. And snapshot means is the latest and greatest code, which is untested, bleeding edge, so on and so forth, right? So the release version is the one where the bundle is converted from a snapshot version to a release version, and that gives the confidence to the customers and release saying that, hey, this is a stable release of a given version of a bundle, right? That's the idea. So the idea that we had was after the first release, like the hydrogen release, the inter-project bundle dependencies will always stay in the release bundle, while the intra-project bundles can live in snapshot. So the idea is the OVSDB project has, today we have 3 or 4 bundles, and thus for the development of OVSDB, we will of course be in snapshot, checking code, be in snapshot till we release the bundles to the release process. But the dependencies that we have on other projects like the MDSAL, controller, Yang tools will stay in the release version of the bundles so that we know that we are dependent on the released artifacts. It's a very common practice in across the on all open source projects where if you are dependent on third-party dependencies, then you don't depend on snapshot, or rather depend on the release version of it. That's the original thought we had. So till now, I didn't move the bundle dependencies to snapshot, rather kept the bundle dependencies to a release version of hydrogen. But that is quickly, and one more reason that we decided that is we plan to have weekly releases where every project will release a weekly release bundle, where we have a weekly stable version of a bundle which we'll always dependent on. So we thought we'll always be dependent on the inter-project dependencies will be based on that release bundle only. But till now, none of the projects have released any bundles, and hence, if you want to move forward with the new development happening on, say, controller project, we don't have a choice now. We have to depend on snapshot versions. So yesterday, I pushed the code changes to the OVSDB repo, where all the dependencies, the external dependencies from our project, the Yang tools, Forward Moves Manager, MDSAL, so on and so forth, moved from the hydrogen-based release to latest snapshot. So till yesterday, we could not have made the latest integration working with OVSDB, but with this change I committed yesterday with snapshot dependencies, things should work smoothly for all of us. And Brent tried it yesterday and he confirmed that. So if anybody wants to try the latest code, it'll start working starting now. So that's the update. Brent, do you want to add anything to that, buddy?
Well, I guess the only thing that I was totally confused on, because I just, pull OVSDB and work on that. So, normally working on the controller northbound APIs for OpenStack security group. So, figuring, I don't know if I knew this before and forgotten, or just probably likely, but I was having trouble figuring out a good way to run the controller to test it. I guess it was probably being stupid and using, because I used to be able to use distribution, and that was fine out of the controller project, but now that doesn't include things like OpenFlow 1.3 library and OpenFlow Java and everything else.
Right.
So the dude pointed me towards the virtualization integration to use that for like your binary distribution. So it's got all your jars. So basically you can edit, let's say you change something in OVSDB, you build the jar and then copy that jar over to the virtualization. In theory, you should be able to just build the virtualization again and it'll pull it from your M2 cache, but sometimes it's easy to script into your build to copy it to that directory. So if you pull a controller...
That's what I've been doing so far, right? But what you can do now is, we discussed yesterday, right, Brent? So I will do another patch. I'll push it to the OVSDB project, updating the distribution, our distribution, which will actually include OF13 and everything. So you don't have to depend on other projects. We just build in our project. We can have everything in place for us. That we'll add.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's why.
I see what you're saying. So we can edit. I didn't realize we could control that distribution. So yeah, we put. So you just edit the POM file to force have Maven pull down all the 1.3 dependencies. Right.
So we can pull in the Maven dependencies, and we need to update some few other bundles on the because the distribution is which we put them together, right? So we can decide what to put them together, what not to. So in this case, I will pull in that. But the problem here is the OF13 inclusion and all those will cause some issues. So we need to fix those. That's one patch I will push in, say maybe today or tomorrow. After that, all you need to do is build distribution from our project, and that's it. So that's one thing which I need to get it going. I'll do that.
So another general question on your change menu. What's happening with branching and tagging for our repo? Because right now I see some very strangely named tags, but none of them sound like the head at the time that we released master, released hydrogen. Sorry. So
yeah. So okay, you know what? For folks who are interested in that, let me share my screen and show what all the tags that we have and everything. That'll be interesting to see. Give me 1 second, guys.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think ahead a little to, bug fixing and being able to jump back to the previous release, especially as we start changing things like moving on to, using snapshots of parts of the controller project. It might be useful to be able to get back to where we were.
Yes, sir. Let me give me 1 second, guys. I am trying to.
You can try the link in the chat, Madhu, if you're having problems navigating.
No, I got it. Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah. There you go. So if you look at this one, guys, right? So ideally we have these branches default, which is the head, master, and the ref meta config. These are the other branches that was tags. Basically, this is the lay down whenever we do the bulk release. So there is if you look at Jenkins, we have this bulk release Jenkins job, which we added for during the hydrogen release. And you see all the 3, 4, 2, 9. We did so many prepare only phases for in order to make things work, right? So it automatically tags all these tags here, right? So essentially, I can delete many of them. I can actually delete all these prepare tags which we don't need. I leave only the last one, but I'm not going to delete it now. So what I'm saying is the prepare only 9 here is the actual tag which we used for releasing our bundle, right? So what we thought is, let's not pull a branch, we just lay a tag, and we'll pull a branch. I mean, we'll call it the 1.0.0 release branch, and we start maintaining that. But the problem here is I mean, there was no requirement so far to maintain the hydrogen release and do a bug fix on that, and then do a snapshot release for the helium. So far there was no requirement. So none of the projects have actually pulled a release branch and doing the bug fix there and then porting the code to the latest master, right? No one is doing that yet, including OVSDB. Maybe it's a good idea to do that, right? I'm not too sure because typically the way it works is the bug fixes go to the master branch typically, and then based on the requirement, we'll take the bug and fix, and then put it on the release branch, and then do a release based on that, right? So that is based on release management, release process, which is not agreed upon by the community yet. But having said that, our project, we can decide how we want to go about doing that. Okay. Since Dave brought up the point, let's open it up now, right? Let's open it up and ask the folks here in the call now on what you guys think on how we should have the release managed. Do we want to maintain the hydrogen release with bug fixes there and have a strict 2 weeks releases where we can keep releasing the bug fix from the bug fix branch? You can just keep releasing hydrogen while we can do the feature development on the master. That's the most common way of doing things, but we don't have any process yet.
So personally, what I'd like to see is a hydrogen branch, so we know what the code was that was released for hydrogen, and then we can put tags in that branch for each one of the mini releases that we're doing every 2 weeks. And maybe we have to manually backport fixes into that branch for release. I'm not too sure, but at least then we can do this disruptive things in master without necessarily affecting hydrogen, the stable code that we need to support for 6 months.
Right. So that means we need to do the double commits between 2 branches, right? And the cherry pick will not work. It will work for next few days before the re-architecture, right? Once we do the re-architecture on the master, any bug fixes will be double committed. One is on the master, one on the hydrogen branch. And going forward, if you are going to maintain these branches, then it will be triple fix, triple commit, quarter commit, so on and so forth, depending on how much releases you want to maintain, right? It's about how much you are ready to suffer to maintenance. So you have to start duplicating the releases and so on and so forth, right? So we have to be careful. The reason that we didn't pull a branch now and start pulling the release branches is that is the maintenance nightmare, right? We don't want to keep maintaining the older branches, and that's a problem. So we need to have strict guidelines on how you're going to manage. So are we going to duplicate the old branch once we have the new branch right away, or are we going to have a couple of branches to be alive and then we duplicate the old one? So we need to have that guidelines in place.
I think more than just, I think keeping a dev or experimental and then just like one stable, it's like you said, it's going to get kind of crazy. Well, I don't know. I guess the helium part's a tricky one too, because that could theoretically be a third. It's managing more than 2. It's just doesn't feel scalable right now.
Yeah, so what you can say is the moment you have a one major release, the previous release will not be maintained anymore, right? Maybe that's how, let's ask Kyle. Kyle, how is OpenStack done? Once you have high source, do we even support the previous versions at all, or is it like, how is it done?
The upstream OpenStack, the way the way it works is that they support the previous version for one additional cycle. So right now, Icehouse is the current master and is in feature freeze but hasn't released, so they're still supporting Havana. So once Icehouse is released in maybe a month or so, then they'll wait, excuse me, Havana is the current release, so they're supporting one back from that, which is
Grizzly, right?
Yeah, Grizzly. I'm sorry, I don't know why I couldn't think of that. But they'll drop support for Grizzly then and make Havana the stable release. And then, wait, am I doing that wrong? Yeah, I'm doing it wrong.
Yes. So for example, let's say we release ISOs tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Then
Havana be maintained?
No, then Icehouse becomes the stable version, and then the master, Juno becomes master and is under active development.
And Havana is that's it, right? It's deprecated, and folks can use it if they want to, and that's it.
Right. They won't put any more fixes into that. Now, maybe the distribution people will still put fixes in, like if Red Hat or Canonical or someone like that still supports it. That's possible.
So, they upstream the commits into the Havana branch?
No, they won't upstream them. It'll have to be like distribution specific at that point.
Okay, so that means the Red Hat or whoever will just pull the code, entire code, and then we maintain it internally.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be probably part of the product at that point, rather than the upstream.
Okay, so that's clear. So if somebody from who are using the upstream Havana, they might get support from the community, but if it is a specific release from a specific vendor, then community will not support them anymore because bug fixes are totally off the track, right?
Right.
Okay, got it.
Only since we don't really have, I guess we have Helium stable. I think the only problem with that is over the next couple of months is that there's just a lot of bugs in Helium in our hydrogen release. So I would think if we do it, it would only be like a one-off for this time, and we'll get to the point where we release just like OpenStack. Like you said, maintaining. I don't know if we'll be able to get away with that, but because if you look at like say the last whatever Grizzly, there's nothing on there. There's no patches. Like the day Havana comes out, they don't touch it. Right, Kyle? That's what you said. I've noticed.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so that means we deprecate right away the previous table, and then only the latest table will be maintained by the upstream. That's it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think if we did something different, I would think it would just be for like this one time, maybe, just because hydrogen.
No, it's not one time, right? Brent, no, it's not one time here too, right? What we are saying here is when the helium is released, that's when we deprecate hydrogen. Till then, hydrogen will be supported.
Right.
So always we end up in a double commit phase where we'll commit in master on the existing stable. That's it. We never do the after the helium is released, we support the existing master on helium, but never the hydrogen. Hydrogen is done. That's it.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was saying it. I totally said it wrong. Yeah, totally agree with you.
So yeah, guys. Since in the call we are recording and everything, right? So it's a project decision, right? So if we agree as a project here, then hey, we will do the same process as in OpenStack, and we'll have a release cycle where we should have a proper releases every 2 weeks or whatever, right? We'll decide on whether it's every 2 weeks or is it based on the content or whatever. We'll decide, and then we'll start releasing the OVSDB bundles from the hydrogen release called the bug fixes releases like 1.0.1, 1.0.2, 1.1.0, whatever that we decide on depending on the fixes. And then we will go to the master where you do all the re-architecture and whatnot. We'll do it in the master branch.
I'm wondering whether it might be worth us maintaining 3 branches until Helium comes out. And the reason I'm saying this is because we should have our current release branch, which is going to change every 2 weeks when we do a release. We can have kind of like a master branch where we're putting in the bug fixes, and we can use that to pull into the release branch every couple of weeks. And then we ought to be maintaining like a Helium release candidate branch that we can push all of the disruptive changes into, or the additional features, because I guess we don't want to leak additional features into hydrogen if they're not ready for the mainstream, right? Because there's 2 types of commits that are going to be going into master right now. There's the disruptive and there's the bug fixes. We kind of need to separate out the 2.
No. See, this is my deal, right? The master is going to be the snapshot, right? All the disruption things will happen on the master snapshot, right? That's the part of being a master and a snapshot, latest, right? So all we need is 2 branches. And we don't want to cherry pick because the code is going to change on the master. Master is going to be always a disruptive one, right? And if you want to do bug fixes, then we do bug fixes manually, right? I mean, if you have bug fix to be fixed on the hydrogen, then go and fix on the hydrogen, and then double commit it back on the master if need be, or vice versa. Because the code is going to be deviated right away. The code deviation is going to happen on the master.
Oh yeah,
And,
yeah, I know. I'm just trying to work out how to kind of isolate it in my mind. That's all. This is all very much new to me. So
see, the thing is, the master you should never trust it as a stable one. If you trust that, then there's a mistake there, right? So it's better to have a stable hydrogen, as we discussed now. And any bug fixes that is applicable to hydrogen, we'll port it to hydrogen release as well. And if there's a bug filed for hydrogen, we'll fix it on hydrogen branch and maybe port it to the master as well if it's applicable on the master.
Yeah, okay. I think that sounds like a good idea.
So a simple 2-branch you have to manage, and that's it.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's get some consensus and let's do it.
Yeah, perfect, man. So Brent, Kyle, you guys are the committers in the project. So if you say yes, we'll start doing things this way.
Yeah, that works for me.
All right, sir.
Brent. Nah. Yeah, sounds good. I think just doing OpenStack. I mean, whatever OpenStack does makes a lot more sense than most things we're going to do. So, sounds good.
All right, sir. So with that one, I will pull a branch today for the hydrogen, and then we'll look at the bugs. Let's try to. I don't know how to organize that. Do we need a bug scrub or anything, or just how do we communicate? We need to figure out how to communicate and so on and so forth, which we will do. All right, so that is out of the way now. Thanks, Dave, for being in the lab. It's very important discussion you're supposed to have. So, Dave, then we want to take it over on the next discussion we want to have.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to kind of give me a little bit of runway? Do you want to introduce what we were doing for people that are not aware of the OVSDB library redesign thingy?
Sure. Yeah, definitely, man. Okay. Okay, you know what? Let me also again do another share. Give me a second, guys. Let me find the other link. The links, man. That's why I like the OneNote. I need to start capturing the links. There you go. Okay, let me share my screen again. Okay. You see my screen now?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah, now we can see it.
Perfect, yeah. So, so this is the high-level design that we wrote on OVSDB integration like few months back. Let me show some high-level picture and then we'll start doing things. Let's see if I can capture something here. Okay, this is a good picture to start with. So this is the way things are done. Okay, where the OVSDB southbound plugin has the configuration service, connection service. We have a POSIX mapper, we have the JSON library, and then we talk to the OVSDB server, and we have the northbound APIs from the controller or whatever, and then we talk to us, right? This is if you look at the OVSDB here, it's a big blob of both plugin and library put together. Okay, so for those who are new to OVSDB or doesn't know the OVSDB, the bigger picture, OVSDB is made of 2 components. One is the RFC 7047, which is the bidirectional RPC-based OVSDB transport mechanism, and the second component is the schema itself. So the OpenVSD schema and the harder VTEP schema or any other vendor-specific schema. So today we don't have the distinction. We put everything together in this one gigantic OVSDB library, and we're using it without any separation between the schema and the library. Also, as you can see here, this bundle also have dependencies on the configuration service, connection service from the OpenDaylight controller project. So the idea that we are having now is that the design that we are doing as we speak is that we are trying to separate out the OVSDB library, which will adhere to the RFC 7047 RFC only, which talks only about the transport, about whatever 7047 says, we will follow that. So for folks who are new to 7047, this is 7047. This is the OVSDB protocol draft. This is a draft, but we have an RFC, information RFC on this one now. So you can take a look at this. It says whatever you see here will be addressed by the OVSDB library that I was showcasing right now. Okay. And the plugin, we'll do the schema one. So our idea was to keep plugin handling the schemas and library independent of that. In addition to that, we want to, my personal goal is to keep Open Daylight specific dependencies like the controller dependency or the Yang dependency or whatnot out of this library and plugin, right? So the idea is that this is the idea, it's a thought process, right? Maybe it's not politically correct, but thought process is that from a software engineering standpoint, anybody interested in OVSDB should be able to take the plugin and the library and plug it in wherever they want to, right? For example, OpenStack is interested only in OVSDB but not in Open Daylight. They should be able to just take this library and the plugin, attach to OpenStack, and just use it naturally from there without any dependency on any other Open Daylight specific plugins, right? So this is a thought process. Again, maybe it's not acceptable by the community and whatnot, but from a software engineering standpoint, have this modularity in place so that it's easily plug and play and be a reference platform for anybody to make use of. So the idea is to keep the plugin and the library out of Open Daylight's dependencies and keep the library out of the plugin dependencies and make sure plugin makes use of the library and plugin addresses only the schema-specific needs, so on and so forth. So with this approach, what you're going to get is we're going to get a nice layered approach where every bundle is specific, does its job specifically and is isolated from the other ones. And while doing this, we'll write the code appropriately for doing proper unit testing, proper CI, proper integration testing, so on and so forth, which is missing today. In today's code, the code is not so modular where you can do good UI, good unit tests or good integration test. With the new architecture, we are actually trying to achieve that aspect as well. We'll have better quality code, properly re-architecture, properly designed one, right? So the idea is to, my original idea was to have library and plugin independent of Open Daylight, and each plugin will address given schema, like the one will address the OpenVSD schema, other one will address the hardware weight of schema. Another plugin could be a vendor can come with their own plugin, attach, things will work dynamically for them, right? So the original idea we had, we are executing towards that, but Dave had some other points. So that's the introduction, Dave. Is there anything else you want me to add onto that?
No, I think you've summed it up nicely. So I guess my concern was around having one plugin per schema, that the number of plugins that we need to maintain is kind of going to grow in time. And the way I'm thinking about this, and this would be really interesting to get everybody's feedback on this, but this whole project is very tightly coupled to Open vSwitch. And if you're going to be deploying OpenStack and you're going to want to use our Neutron integration, then you could be deploying on any number of distributions that all have varying support for Open vSwitch packages from versions like 1.6 through to 1.11, and then from 2 to 2.01 and so on and so forth. And in that time, I believe I'm right in saying that the schema has changed.
Yeah.
So there are potentially many different permutations of the same schema that we're going to need to maintain to make sure that we have this compatibility with Open vSwitch. So I'm wondering whether we could do something a little similar to what's been done with the Yang tools in the main part of the controller project. Maybe we use Yang, maybe we use something else, but if we can just have a standard model that we can write for the schema and then have something at runtime or compile time dynamically generating the POJOs, then that might be a little easier for us to maintain because we don't need to keep on duplicating code. It's just a case of changing the schema and letting the code write itself.
Okay, so there's one minor disconnect there, right? So when you say we'll have one plugin for schema, my idea was to keep one plugin that will manage all versions of the same schema, right? We didn't say that one plugin per version of a schema. Right? We said one plugin for a schema. So, for example, as I said, the OpenVSD schema has changed from 1.0.5 to 2.0.0, right? They added 2 tables, removed 1, and whatnot, right? All I'm saying is we're going to have only one plugin called OpenVSD schema, right? A plugin. That plugin will handle all versions of the same schema. So that could be, as you said, they could use Yang with augmentation, or they can just do the schema pull and then do the version check and do it. It's really up to the plugin implementation. We don't want to dictate how the plugin should be implemented, whether it's Yang or not. It's really up to the plugin to decide.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I'm just trying to reduce the amount of code we have to maintain, that's all. And
yeah,
seeing that, that made me think of, plugin per version, because, things change.
I mean, I don't want to maintain one plugin per version. That doesn't make any sense, right? We might have different versions of the plugin, the OSGI bundles, basically bug fixes and feature addition. But to me, one OpenVSD plugin will manage all versions of the OpenVSD schemas.
Cool.
And so the idea is still to have like basically separate plugins per schema.
We'll have, say, for example, we have OpenVSD, we'll have one plugin. Hardware Vita will have another plugin, and if customer has their own custom version of OVSDB schema, which they use in the device, then they can come with their own plugin, attach it, and things will work naturally for them.
I wonder how difficult it would be to restructure things so that the schema can be dropped in as a set of POJOs maybe in the same plugin, so that the plugin really does nothing more than define the transport of OVSDB, and basically there's a section that we can say here's how here's how the schema for your particular implementation impacts the serialization.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, because one of the things that I was just about to bring up was, just reading through my notes here, is about the way that the plugin's actually going to be used. So is there any reason why we actually need to have that differentiation there, and to have one particular plugin for this schema and one plugin for that schema? If we can dynamically generate the POJOs, then we can even do things like making calls into a northbound API to load in another schema. As long as it's in the right format for us to generate the POJOs, then we can do that at runtime. So you can spin up a vanilla ODL and then load in your Cisco-specific or whoever-specific schema for whichever device you want to use.
Well, yes. I mean, it's definitely possible. The question is, who's going to do the dynamic generation of the POJOs from the JSON schema?
Well, I guess
I don't know if you've looked at it, but this is how Open vSwitch itself is built. It's got a schema compiler and generates all the source for OVSDB.
But we didn't find anything for Java code. That's the problem.
No, so it's just C-based.
Yeah. So in fact, when we originally started this approach, we actually looked for this schema, which we didn't find a existing tool, or nobody was interested in doing the project where we read the schema and auto-generate the POJOs. We couldn't find any, and we didn't find anybody interested in doing that. That's why we took this approach. If there's interest in the community, like what Dave said, right? If you think, hey, you know what, let's not do that. Let's just auto-generate the POJO from the schema and just use it dynamically. If there's interest there, then we can concentrate on that. Yeah. It becomes something like a Yang tools project now, right?
Yeah, just JSON RPC schema tools or whatever else we want to call it.
Yeah. So actually, we searched for it when we started, like back last year, somewhere in June. I'm not sure. I'm sure. Brent can give the correct dates. Where when we started, we actually looked for the tools for JSON schema to auto-generate code. We didn't find any. So we looked at Yang tools to see if we can use that for schema generation. But then said, hey, identity list is important. Let's start doing things this way. But yeah, I mean, point well taken. I mean, the plugins project itself can be an auto-generated piece of code which will just generate things, right? It definitely yes.
The interface just become a function of the whatever the plugin generates for. In other words, the plugin writer gets to decide what they expose as the northbound interface.
Northbound interface is generic, right? The moment you talk about schema-based API generation, I mean the code generation, then the northbound API will be like RESTconf, like today, right? Where all you do is generic ones. And in fact, today's northbound API that we have is very similar, where we take any table, any schema, any data, and then we map it out later, right? So it's very similar to what we have already. But again, RESTconf is very similar, like what Dave said now. So the discussion here is, if we are ready to do that, we need to start planning for that, for Helium. Then we need to sign up on volunteers who's going to do that and so on and so forth.
So let me ask another question, because I think this might have some bearing in which solution that we choose to use in the end. And right now in the diagram that we have on the screen, we have a single connection service. Now, when we talk about implementing multiple plugins, are we talking about multiple connection services, or are we talking about moving that service into the library? Because the reason I ask is that we have that, we're maintaining state there, and I'm just conscious of having state being maintained in various different places, because that might make it a little difficult to interface with that part of the plugin through the controller.
Yeah, got it, yeah. So my thought process, again, is my thought process. I didn't think it through on this one, right? The states, we talk about states, the netty is actually maintaining the socket states, right? Netty will actually be part of the library. It will not be part of any other guy. Library will maintain the actual TCP states for netty. That's going to be there. But the connection service that we see here, it is mostly what we have today is we have this node ID to the netty channel mapping, which we use it for interfacing with the controller's connection manager, right? That's what we use it for. So since we are removing the controller's dependencies on the plugin on the library, it will be an independent bundle which will just, the only role of this bundle which is sitting outside this plugin and library is to listen to these connections and report it to the controller and back and forth, right? So it's an independent bundle to me, which is essentially there to interface with the open daylight controller. Period. Which will maintain inventories, it will maintain configuration service, it will do the connection service. Whatever is exposed by open daylight SAL will be managed by this bundle, while the plugins will take care of, in the current architecture, when we say plugins, we mean this independent plugins for a given schema. But the moment you say auto-generated code, then it doesn't matter after that, right?
So yeah, what I'm trying to work out is that the interface that we're exposing to the controller, will that allow us to query the schema that's in use and to work out what operations it supports?
Ideally, yes. I mean, ideally, yes, but it has to be generic enough for the controller to expose schemas. The moment you say it's a controller API, to me, controller must abstract the services across plugins, and having a schema-based API exposed, I'm not sure how generic it is across plugins, solvable plugins, I mean. If it is specific to OVSDB, controller is not interested in that, right?
Sure.
Maybe it's OVSDB specific northbound APIs or whatnot which you can make use of. So yeah, I mean, the basic point about Matt, you and Chris brought out here, right? If you guys think we have to do the auto generation from JSON schema, this is specifying it as JSON schema specifically because the dynamic component of OVSDB is JSON. It's not based on Yang, right? So we will have the JSON schema dynamically coming from the device using the get schema method. We'll get it. So we have to either do a dynamic POJO generation at runtime, right? At runtime, there's no compile time thing at all, right? We do everything at runtime, and things are generated automatically. We can start thinking those lines as well if folks are interested in that.
Can we have a compromise? Sorry.
Let me just ask a quick question. So what are the use cases? I guess where so our release, other than, handful of OpenStack services and whatnot, like our release was to be focused on performance. So I guess my question is going to be, how does this improve performance, and then what's the use case? I mean, I hear a lot about Mindy Sal, how dynamic generation of schemas is the data model is the only way to to future. But I guess I struggle with, I don't even know what the use cases are. I haven't seen it there, and I definitely don't see it here, other than somebody bringing in a shorter time of development for an extension. But I mean, I can extend a schema today, and that's 30 minutes basically, because you just go into a POJO, add the data types, and build it. So I don't know what I guess I need to understand the use case by runtime.
The use
is
case
more
here
priority than performance.
So it's not, the use case here is mostly manageability, right? Where if somebody adds their own schema, there's no code change required on Open Daylight to manage that schema. It's all auto-generated for you.
I mean, I'm totally with you. I just don't know where is that happening today. I guess what are the use cases where people are doing that with OVS, and how that would be helpful for us, or take a priority for us. Let me say that I totally agree that it makes sense. I'm just trying to figure out priority.
So what I'm thinking is, could we not do this at compile time? Because we are able to get the schema from the Open vSwitch repo, right? We could potentially, pull those into our project, and then we could generate these using our code at compile time and have the POJOs loaded in dynamically at runtime.
See, okay, this is a compromise you are talking about, right? But the compromise to me is more headache than helping, right? I mean, then you have to start managing all the versions. You need to plug it in, put everything together, right? So to me, personally, it's my personal opinion, right? The moment if you are talking about moving to a schema-based POJO generation, I would go all the way. I would never take an intermediate step of going to a compile time version and then go there. Because the idea of schema is to give you the dynamic capability, right? That's the idea of schema. So if we are going there, we should go all the way. I mean, there's no point taking intermediate step, because anyways, developmental work is there for either way of doing things. Just that a different way of handling things, but development work is going to be similar, I think, if I'm not wrong.
So I think, Brent, the use case from my perspective is to make it easier for us to maintain compatibility against this rather wide subsection of Open vSwitch installations that we're potentially going to be dealing with. And if we can get the schema off the wire and create the POJOs dynamically, then it's potentially easier for us to support than to have to manually hand code those and to keep up with development in Open vSwitch to know when we need to change our schema, or change our POJOs rather.
No, I definitely agree. I just want to hear where priority of, because we don't really have those requests a ton. I mean, we do when it comes to like, if something new, it would definitely be nice there. So as the tables evolve, that could definitely be handy. I'm just trying to figure out, like, I don't know, I just think we've got performance issues too in this, so it might be worth looking at while we're doing it. I don't know. I guess I'm less worried about that than just this not scaling. The library itself not scaling.
It's a fun project, that I can say. It's going to be. I will definitely be interested in working on that. If we all agree, it's good to do, right? Because I know it's going to be fun, So you can.
The fact that I'm suggesting it means that I'm volunteering to work on that too, just to make that clear.
Right. Awesome. I'm all for it. I mean, if that's what you guys are, we definitely need to do it. So, don't take my questions the wrong way. I'm just trying to ask a couple here.
Well, I guess, we're still re-architecting the library right now, and if there was some way that we could, provide a nice clean interface and maybe just have static POJOs for now, but be able to replace that with dynamic POJOs, dynamically generated POJOs in the next release, then I'd be good with that. You know, we just don't want to close the door on doing this if it's a good idea while we're re-architecting the library.
Yeah, so just an update, right? The library coding is kind of is working already, right? The library has been redesigned already, and it's kind of working. And we have the static POJO for a few tables already, and we are able to map with the library schema. Schema is being generated, and I mean, many of things are like kind of it's in good shape already. But you know, I agree with with Dave and Matt that if we can do it, if there's interest there, we can insert this in as well. So I mean, I'm all for it, guys. If you want to do it, we can do it. So again, to summarize, right, we are talking about JSON schema, auto-generated, dynamic POJOs. No more Yang. It's not Yang based because Yang is useless here, right? So we talk about JSON schema here. So no more comments. And Kyle left.
The first step, I think, would be to get that structure so you could just drop in some static logos to do that. But the whole dynamically generated, I'm not sure how that would work. So I would love to see that.
So if you're talking about static POJOs, I will now take a step on. You pull in the JSON, auto-generate the source code and statically binding. That is really useless. That's same as what Brent said, right? It's going to take time and pull in, auto-generate the code, while I'm going to write the code manually and put a static binding. So these two, to me, both are identical, right? If you're going to go the dynamic JSON scheme based, it should be dynamic, totally dynamic, right? So we can do that. I mean, if that's the case, we can start addressing that right away, and we can start working towards that. It's fun. I mean, it's definitely doable. Definitely not a unicorn. It's definitely a doable one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. So maybe Brent will add it to the part of the re-architecture, and we'll start discussing to Ashwin as well on that.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things that I've mentioned on this call a couple times was the only thing I don't like about, and I'm curious what you guys think on how we can work around, just for like for debugging and stuff. Like, if something's thrown in error on a serialized, sometimes it's nice to have that static. So I don't know if it's even worth like having, just something in even if it's in just the LSDI window that's pretty clear on how to spit out the current schema. If that makes sense. So it's going to be ephemeral and go away. So whatever's negotiated, some way of being able to see that for troubleshooting might be helpful. But I guess you can always get that from OVSDB, so never mind. You can always just pull the schema from the edge and it'll be there. Just some way to actually see it, I guess. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good point, man. I mean, we need to make sure it is easy to debug. That's a point.
I'm sure we can work something in there.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of just on the, you're helping people or just general talk on the channels. So like, where is a flow mod? Where is this action being done? I don't see it in the Yang or whatever, in the auto-generated classes. So, and if you go through and look through like OpenFlow Java, it's pretty unclear, where my list of actions are that I'm going to do, or you know what I mean. I just want to make sure we keep that in the back of our heads. Yeah, thanks for talking about this. I appreciate it, man. Very. Is what Madhu proposed? Is that good with you guys? Sounds pretty spot on, doesn't it? Other than static POJOs.
Yeah, so the library redesign is there's no change there. We are doing it the way all of us agree there, right? The only thing we are changing now is the plugins. Instead of doing a static POJO per plugin, we are going to make it completely dynamic, where there's no actually plugin. There's no plugin bundle. It's going to be a dynamically generated POJO which can be used by anybody else. So it's fine. It's fine. Let's figure it out how that goes.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work, we've always got the static pages we can pull back on.
So that means we need to run both the projects. We need to make sure the static POJO works. In parallel, we need to make sure the dynamic one also works.
We'll do it, buddy. We can work it out. We've got you and your friend on the team. You guys are rock stars, so it's bound to work.
So okay, I mean, it will be clear here, right? That means we are going to work on both. Is that what you're saying here?
Where's it might help me do maybe where's I haven't talked to Ashwin since on the NS. Do you know where he's at on him?
Dude, we are recording, man. So.
Oh yeah. I was curious. Yeah.
So I spoke to Ashwin. Ashwin, he said he's working on every Thursday on this one. He's doing a project transfer, right, from projects. So every Thursday he's working on OVSDB re-architecture.
Oh, sweet.
That's his set time. Yeah.
I'll tell you guys, like, Matt and Dave talking to, if the dude's not around or if Ashwin's over, that will just blow your brains on this stuff. It's just, he's really good at it too. So he's bouncing some of your ideas off him too. He's really good.
Okay, so I think this topic we have covered enough. Anything else, man? We already run out of time. If you have anything else, we can discuss now.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. We are. Oh, heard that hour ago.
But it's productive, man. It's really productive, at least. Anything else, buddy, or?
No, I'm good, sir. Guys, anything your end or?
On the Neutron side, you want to add anything, buddy?
Oh, sure. I was going to demo. We're just out of time, so I don't want to push people over.
So, Brent, can I ask you a question, buddy?
Yes, sir.
Are you working on the Neutron stuff in the main controller project?
Yeah, so basically so like when just to nail down the flow really quick. So you've got when Neutron makes a call for something, it's going to make a call from Neutron to the northbound API that Ryan did in the controller. And so find there today is like L3 plugin. Mostly anything that was used for Dove is defined there for OpenStack. So we use primarily we get a network ID and some of those things from it. So we use network port and subnet or what we subscribe to. Now we'll subscribe to security also. So I'm just doing the security one to start with, security group and security rules. And so that plumbs down into, so basically OVSDB subscribes to that. When an event happens from the northbound side, it'll pipe it down to OVSDB, our Neutron plugin in our project.
Awesome.
I want to get it like really documented out. I want to get the code pushed. Hopefully, it won't be end-to-end work. It's okay with you guys, but I'd like to get it good. I want to get it off in a local machine, and so that everybody can, if anybody else is working on a service or anything like that, at least it might help a little bit.
Well, that's kind of the question. So there was a thread on the mailing list that I think Kyle kicked off. Somebody kicked off, and I chipped in on about actually maintaining this code separately from the main part of the controller, so the people that actually have vested interest in this OpenStack code can collaborate and work on it and know who's doing what. Because I think from doing some of the work that we did on the ML2 mechanism driver for Daylight, one of the things that was painfully pointed out to us was the fact that we don't actually implement pagination in the API right now. and we're using a call to get networks to refresh our tokens, which could mean that you end up getting back hundreds of network results when you really only need one to refresh the cookie. So I was going to take a look at pagination, but was just wondering kind of who's maintaining that code, and can I just kind of dip in and change it, or you know, are people actually working on doing stuff there?
You know, I personally, like Ryan did the initial bundle, so I'd definitely go to him and do. So if you look in there, in the comments, it does reference that pagination isn't implemented. I'm trying to think of a clean way to. I think the request. I looked at the API and it specifies within the API. So it shouldn't be too bad.
My question is, like, why is it? I mean, how does it make a difference whether it's a part of the controller project or outside project? Anybody can contribute, right?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, it just would have a little more focus on it, I guess, if there were people committed to maintaining a set part of code, because I guess it's kind of what's lost in having so many projects in the main controller side is that who's maintaining which piece of code. Who do you need to talk to if you want to get something changed?
No worries.
That doesn't matter, right? I mean,
we can focus is really kind of helping.
So we can do a git log and figure out who is managing it, right? If you look at the code today, you will see commits from myself and Ryan on that code. Because we both, I mean, it's Ryan's code essentially, right? I add some features to that and whatnot, right? So to me, it doesn't matter which project where it belongs to, and we all know we're all interested in that Neutron code. So.
No, I just thought it would be interesting because obviously there's three projects that kind of depend on that code, so it would be good if we could kind of all get together and look after it. But maybe that's just me thinking out loud. But anyway, I didn't mean to rat hole this, Brent, so I'm sorry, buddy.
Oh, no, it's a great question. It's a great thing. I'm just like Medusa, definitely like that's going to be an important place for it.
All you need to do, Dave, is just submit patches and review code on those changes, and then you are now officially co-maintaining that code.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. Makes sense.
And for information, Ryan is not even a committer in the controller project. He's managing that. Yeah. Because I merged it for him, so I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's super laid back. Like he would definitely. I mean, I talked to him a little bit. So, hey, I'm gonna be adding on security onto this. Like I said, oh, your code. And he's like, it's not my code. Okay, dude. All right, cool. So point is, he's going to be very, he's very clear that, this is, he totally gets it, and totally right attitude. He's super cool with. I don't even know what the point of that was. Anyways, Ryan's cool. He's a regex boy.
Thanks for wrapping up, buddy.
Cool.
Dude, if you are done, I think we should call it days. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Awesome.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
fellas.
you. I'll stop recording then. Okay, recording stopped.